everyone, it's JPC again, and this is episode number 12 of Back in My Day. I wanted to do this episode because I've gotten inquiries in Discord and on stream. I've seen comments in Discord, not directly to me, and as well as comments in Wahoojan's stream about how to deal with failure and how to navigate wins and losses. Sometimes people talk about just even being consistent. But the idea of success and failure and consistency is kind of the issue. So this episode is about how to mentally navigate those feelings and assigning proper self-worth to your game. So I felt like it would be interesting. I also brought a guest with me today, and we'll introduce him when we get started. A couple of caveats. Obviously, we are not professionals. These are our experiences and our perspectives, and any challenges or concerns that people are having with the topics topics later, please comment and give us feedback. Let us know how you feel. Anything that's added that can be of different perspectives is always beneficial. And we appreciate it. Before we get into it, I'm going to do the standard call to action here. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends. It helps me out, gives me a little virtual pat on the back. And as always, let me know how things are going and topics that you might be interested in hearing about. All right, let's get into it. All right, so before we get into topic number one, Ethan, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Ethan. You might recognize me from the Wahoojan Club Banana Discord server, but outside of that, I am 26 years old. I just recently graduated law school, and I feel like I have a lot of thoughts on dealing with failure and how to persevere through that, as well as the opposite side of succeeding when maybe the odds are a little bit stacked against you, and how you can interpret that as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Obviously, this is different from how I've done this before, so we'll see how this goes. I'm really excited to try this new format. All right, so dealing with success and failure. So one of the things that when I got the list of things people were interested in hearing about, dealing with failure was one that came up, but I think that I kind of mentioned this to Ethan earlier, that dealing with success is also a part of that. So I'll kind of throw out my perspective on this real quick. And I feel like one of the reasons people are challenged with dealing with failure, we'll kind of deal with that side to start with, is this idea of shame. And when we do something that we don't like, shame kind of creeps in. And typically shame makes us feel bad internally. At least that's the perspective that I've had on reading on shame. I won't talk about why I've read on shame, but I feel like shame kind of drives people to not like an outcome, and it makes them internalize it, which is why I think failure gets so heavy for some people.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, a lot of time we are competing almost for competition's sake is how I've interpreted a lot of things. Particularly in video games, everyone wants to be the best, which sort of makes sense. If you're playing an online game, you are inherently competing against everyone else who's playing that game. And so why wouldn't you want a system that makes you and shows you who the best are?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, assigning self-worth and validation to, oh my God, I am not good enough as a person because I lost a ranked game in Valorant, is where I see a lot of people, and I personally have had a lot of like personal failure and personal self-worth sort of issues and turmoils that I've had to work through. And so I see success and failure and assigning self-worth as something that you sort of have to establish at the beginning before you start a task, in order to make sure that you're not overindulging in some of those issues.
Yes, yeah. So the I actually talked about it in a previous podcast, which is redefining success before you even go into it, which also means redefining failure, which I never really talked about before. Um, when it comes to it, and I think I'd like to talk about both success and failure, to your point, in um, I guess conjunction with each other, whatever a word that I'm thinking of that sounds like talking about them together. Um, because if we're so worried about that, all right, so when I play and I lose, and I'm like, when I was trying to rank up to diamond, you remember I talked to you about this periodically between sessions, but um I wanted that diamond so badly. I wanted to get there, and part of it was I felt obligated to succeed in this for a Christian, because I felt like this the series was him showing how a theory that he had was coming to fruition. And if I failed doing that, then I was not only, failing myself because I couldn't accomplish it, but I was also failing Christian at the same time, or Wahoojan for those who don't know. So Wahoojan. And I would get physically like sick to my stomach when I would get close and lose. Um, what I wasn't, I guess, personally, um, I guess, rationalizing was it didn't matter. And Wahoojan told me this 100 times. I don't care how long it takes. I know you will get there. And then he would constantly try to give me ideas of what I needed to focus on in terms of success and failure. But I was so focused on that finish line that I couldn't. Everything else was blurry. If I didn't get a win, if I didn't gain RR, then I failed. And it took me quite a while to stop doing that, to stop having that mentality. That's kind of who I've always been, regardless, work, personal life, whatever it happened in sports. I always kind of felt that way. And what's interesting is, well, I was just literally thinking about it. Hold on, hold on. I'm okay. I'm not going to edit this out either.
I can jump in
Yeah,
for a second.
go ahead. Yeah,
I think it's really interesting that your definition of success was getting diamond.
Yes. Yep.
I think that it's really interesting because if we go back to, we'll call it October of last year, and we look at your gameplay, it was horrific.
It's awful. It was tragic. It was tragic.
It looked like it was new hands day, new eyes day. Like it looked like you had never touched a computer in your life. And at that point you were 500 unrated matches or 500 hours of unrated matches in, something crazy like that.
Just 500 unrated. Yeah, pure. Yep.
So like looking back, I think looking back on that as compared to the gameplay you have going on right now, like sure, you're still not winning 100% of the time. But if we take June 4th JPC and put him against October 15th JPC, there's no competition
at all.
And so I think that it's really hard in the moment to recognize progress and success. Mm-hmm. And when you fail to recognize success, instead of attributing it to maybe improvement, you attribute it to, oh, I'm failing.
Yes, exactly. And we ignore the luck. I actually got ranked up to plat on a game where I had 2 Smurfs in my game. And my first thought was, well, I deserve this because of how many times I lost because of Smurfs. Instead of taking a second and going, it doesn't matter, I'm going to play my game. And I don't care why I'm winning the game or losing the game. Am I checking the box? And actually, Wahoojan was just talking about this on stream earlier today about the success metric. And we were watching my VOD from Pearl. And 2 guys came around the corner and I instantly started spraying. And he paused and was like, I don't care if you get a 2K here. This looks like shit. And I've slowly been able to move in that direction of thinking about those things. I think it helps that I'm no longer in the boomer to diamond because I hit diamond and I can, I guess,
Yeah.
emotionally relax. Yeah.
At this point, if you walked away now, no one would say you failed.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's an interesting way to look at failure as not necessarily a thing that you did, but the absence of achieving the goal you maybe wanted to.
Yes.
And when you treat failure like that, it's so hard to succeed and so very easy to fail.
Yes. Yes.
And
Exactly. Yeah.
and if you assign all of your worth to I need to succeed, I need to hit diamond, I need that icon under my name. And in order to get there, you have to do 100 little things. It makes those 100 little things feel irrelevant or stupid when in reality, they're what matters.
Yes. Exactly. And I guess so. Then to that point, I kind of remember what I was thinking about earlier. If somebody else wins the game, if the other team wins the game, we're so focused on the RR wins or losses that um, I guess I don't know. This doesn't. So I think about work. I used to be a guy that if the person next to me got promoted, I felt like I lost something. And when we feel like we lose something, it does make us angry. Losing stuff is frustrating. There's an I'm not going to say this correctly, but RR should not be something that we're winning or losing or gaining or losing. And I think that also the system itself creates the competition. Rightfully so. It's a competitive game. It's called ranked for a reason. It's competitive play, but we assign so much self worth to the RR gains and losses that it all kind of goes. So I almost want to like refocus on RR versus rank now because every single game, if I'm about to play my rank D rank game and I win that game, the amount of stress that's on me goes away. I have two more games now that I can play and lose before I D rank now. And that's unhealthy, I guess is where I'm kind of going with that. How unhealthy it is to think of I have a buffer before I D rank because I'm so focused on again winning or losing that it's like as a diamond player, as a plat 3 player, because I've D ranked to plat 3 now, that shit doesn't matter. um
Yeah.
Ascendant 3 JPC would shit on me right now as diamond 1 JPC, and that's the perspective that has to be realigned every time I go in and queue.
Yeah. And I think that's sort of to step out of Valorant again for a second. I think that's sort of indicative of how, at least in America, I sort of see how society operates. You said if someone gets promoted in front of you, then you lost.
Yes.
Which in a sense is true, but at the same time, that other person has done whatever other things they have done to get that promotion. And if it was you and one other person started the exact same day, turned in the exact same product,
Yep.
and on day 100 they got promoted and you didn't, yeah, that would feel bad. But there's almost never true equality in terms of who is starting where.
Exactly. Yeah, I 100% agree.
So to give an example, I just graduated law school. Law school has class rankings. And the way class rankings work and grades work in law school is it almost doesn't matter how much of the law you know in any given class. You are ranked against your classmates. So if you and I are classmates and we are writing a criminal law exam, and the way you organize your exam is slightly better and the professor likes that slightly more, even if we know the exact same amount of criminal law, you will get a better grade and therefore a better rank. And the ranks can be very outcome determinative in that some law firms only like to recruit out of the top 10% of a class. But at the end of the day, even though I personally was not in that top 10% of the class, I still got a job. I still graduated school. And assuming I pass the bar in a couple months, I will be an attorney. And at that point, the playing field is even again.
Yes.
So even though I technically failed in being at the top of my class, I succeeded in the outcome that personally to me mattered. And so I think that when we're talking about success and failure and things like that, you need to, or I always needed to understand that where I was not necessarily indicative of how successful I was, and gaining some perspective on what actually it looks like 5 steps, 10 steps down the line can really impact how you view whether you're succeeding or failing.
Yes. No, I like that. And I think that, so perspective is huge, and the subjectivity. One of the reasons that people hate being silver is they think that silver is a bad rank. But it's not. It's the rank you deserve for the skill you have. I know it's kind of like off the point that you were making, but I was bringing it back to the idea of the subjectivity of it all. So the rankings you're talking about would be, my professor liked this the way I wrote this better than this person wrote it, right? So there's some subjectivity in grading, therefore there's some subjectivity in the rankings. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, we can translate this into a Valorant game. If you're playing a ranked game and you are third on the scoreboard on your team, but you win,
Yep.
you still succeeded.
Yep.
But the game is only going to give you 14 RR instead of
Yes.
22 had you been number 1 on the scoreboard.
Yep.
And so it's possible to look at that and look at the scoreboard and say, oh no, I failed.
Yes.
Because I wasn't the best in the room at that point in time. But if you play 10 games and get 14 RR every game, that's the same as playing 6 games and getting 24.
Yes.
Give or take on the math.
Yeah.
And you still hit that same rank.
Yep.
And so even if your way of getting there is longer, that doesn't mean you failed.
100%. Additionally, I will throw in the idea that there's a silver 2 player in my gold game who top frags because they played Reyna and are cracked. That doesn't mean that they smurfed. That doesn't mean that I suffer from this all the time. This guy's not plat 2 and top fragging in my diamond lobby. But then I go back and I rewatch it and I do my analysis. So this is, I guess, part of the next bit, which is to I'm going to pause there. So I want to go into the emotions piece, because I think that so
Sure.
the second thing, because I think that the objectivity of it, which you were talking about earlier, comes from emotions and being able to recognize that maybe my perspective here is pretty trash, and the maddest I've ever been playing a game was immediately dissolved when I went and VOD reviewed the game. I was still annoyed. I still lost. I still lost RR. I still got shit on by somebody. But I found that the fastest way for me to de-tilt after a game is to go and find a way to become objective about it. Because right. And I go back, okay, what was my metric? Okay, my metric was XYZ. It doesn't matter that I lost. I had a really good game. And that's easier to do in hindsight, of course. But yeah, so I want to kind of go into that. So I think that the amount of times I see somebody post in Discord, that's it, I'm done with this game, I'm quitting. I find that to be a very, I apologize for all of you that have done this, but I find that to be a very immature response to a video game. I find that to be a very immature response to life. It's okay to have emotions. It's okay to be emotional about outcomes, but don't react to those emotions. My 8-year-old got mad at somebody and put their hands on that person they were mad at. That's a very immature way to deal with your emotions. So I kind of want to pause there, and that's the direction I was going to go with kind of point number 2. In if we do feel like we succeeded or failed, why are we letting our emotions drive our reaction to that failure? And why don't we do more with success? Do you re-cue the moment you won, regardless of why you won, and just go, yeah, fuck this, hell yeah, I'm the best. Why do we react so much more negatively to failure than we react positively to success?
Yeah, I think that last point is sort of the really interesting one in a lot of that. I think, why do we give so much weight to success, or so much weight to failure rather, when success is arguably more important to focus on, and sort of why we're succeeding, how we're succeeding, and how far we've come.
Yep.
And I think part of it is how we frame that success and that failure.
Yes.
So when you play a ranked game and you drop 30 but your team loses, when that happens to me, I'm so annoyed. Like, I'm playing out of my mind. Every shot is an insane flick, one tap into a spray into a 3K. Like, it's magic. It's beautiful. And then we lose 13-8, and I'm like, what is going on? And I'm so mad. And then I look at that game and I say, okay, I'm annoyed that we lost. I'm annoyed at the outcome, but I'm really happy that I wasn't making this mistake and wasting my utility in this way.
Yes. Yeah.
And so there's sort of competing feelings. And the faster I can get to those competing feelings, the faster I can decide which feeling I care about more.
Yes.
And once I can sort of decide what feeling I care about, or what feeling I should care about, I can lean into that. And so even though I lost and I'm slightly annoyed that I lost, I'm really happy that I didn't make the dumb mistake I made the game before.
Exactly. Yes, 100%. And I think that what becomes the objective of the game then is to figure out how to rationalize that in the middle of the game. Because I hate ending a game and being pissed off, and then 5 minutes later during VOD review going, yeah, it was actually a pretty good game. I could have done things to not be mad for 13 rounds versus sitting there and tilting the second half of a game because I'm dropping 30 and losing, to your point.
Yeah, I mean, I think an emotional reaction is inevitable. We are emotional creatures. Emotions are sort of primal reactions that happen without any say. They are your first reaction to anything that happens to you is going to be an emotional reaction.
Always. Yes.
Oh, I really like that. Oh, I really hate that. Oh, that's disgusting. That's weird. That's whatever. Like, I'm jealous of that. Like, those are innate reactions that you have no control over when they first occur. I think judging your life based on those reactions is a really immature and honestly kind of destructive way to go through life.
Yes.
It's sort of feeding that sort of base primal instinct and being like, I'm just going to react off of what feels good. And sometimes, unfortunately, what we need to do to succeed is watch back our mistakes and wallow in them for a little bit and be like, why, oh, why, when those 2 people rounded that corner on Pearl today, did I just start spraying?
Yep. And I think to your point about it being destructive, instead of, we're kind of repeating this, like, this is obviously bad. We shouldn't be worried about failure and worried about success, right? But I think the point of the understanding our emotions and how we react to things ends up becoming, how do I get better at this faster? So sometimes the success metric of a game should be to lose and not be tilted.
Yeah.
And I think that Wahujin did this for me when I think it was at the end of the episode when I was trying to get the plat and I kept failing, and he was like, "You need to be playing like this is Swift play." He created an atmosphere, or I guess a mentality for me to try to um, duplicate every time I played, and that actually did really help a lot. To be told you care too much about getting to platinum, you care too much about winning. Um, we have so little control over so little actual control over a game that is skill based matchmaking. Um, that was super important for that was a super strong learning moment for me. To be 100% honest.
Yeah, and I had a similar moment. I've honestly never been like an ultra competitive person. If I'm in the moment of a competition, I want to win.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
if I am competing against someone, I am playing, I am trying sort of, if the competition calls for it, as hard as I can. But at the same time, I a long time ago I sort of figured out how to divorce my worth from my competitive ability. So in high school I wrestled,
Ooh, me too.
and in my weight class there was someone else in my grade who was in my weight class, and he was incredibly good. I think he placed, we'll call it fifth at nationals as a sophomore.
Nice.
And so I was never going to be as good as he was in the sport that he had been doing longer, in a way that was sort of competitively healthy. So I had to figure out a way to play this sport and compete in this activity and understand that in my weight class, there was always somebody who was going to be leagues above me in terms of that competition. And so my definition of succeeding was then not how good of a record can I have, not how good of a record can my team have. Well, actually, it sort of became how good of a record can my team have. It became my job to succeed is to get as good as I can so that I can help everyone else get as good as they can.
Yes.
And that's really hard to do when your initial reaction to losing is to get angry.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I was going to lose a lot, and I did lose a lot. But through that losing, I was actually helping other people succeed. I
What?
lost my train of thought.
No. That's, I was actually. What weight did you wrestle? If you don't mind me asking.
I think we started at like 170 and went up to like 195 or
Okay.
220 or whatever it was.
Nice. I got third in state JV freshman year as a 125 pounder.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up being, in my own humble opinion, very good. I think through my JV wrestling, I, like sophomore, junior, and senior year, lost maybe 4 matches.
Yeah.
But the person above me was still
leagues
miles better.
Yeah.
And so it didn't matter, because I needed to figure out how to succeed in a way that wasn't linked to winning, because I wasn't going to win.
And to that point, so I wrestled my freshman year, and what I didn't like about it was that my match outcome was 100% dependent on me. I actually switched to soccer because I could support a better player, or somebody could support me, and I found that I was better at team games anyway. When it came down to it, so it's just it was funny to think about that. I never liked pitching in baseball because that's you versus the batter, give or take, getting signs and strategy from the catcher or the coach. I liked basketball. I like soccer. I like team based sports. Um, so correlating that to video games, StarCraft was not something I wanted to do. Um, all of this was 100% dependent on me. Somebody can't make me better when I'm not performing at my best. I can't help somebody else be better when they're not performing at their best. It's 100% on me. And I've always kind of felt that connection to a teammate type of game or type of play, which is why I liked the idea of Dota. I'd never figured it out, but I like the idea of Dota, and I really like Valorant. I like playing support agents in Valorant. I played position 5. For those that don't know, that's the guy who only buys vision and healing potions. Basically, there's a lot more to it than that. But in Dota, I played position 5, hard support. I really like the idea of that, and I felt like it was the best way for me to play was to support somebody else who was mechanically better.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I kind of feel the opposite. I like individual competition, um, where it's entirely within my control because it's within my control.
That's fair. Yeah.
And
Yep.
as long as I go into it with a healthy mindset, it's it doesn't matter. I think that's sort of the thing that really comes out of this is like whatever my initial emotional reaction is sort of fine as long as I can come back to it later and realize, okay, I'm doing this well, that poorly, whatever it may be, but it's entirely within my control, and so improvement is within my control.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
And so it's I sort of lose that feeling because there's nothing more frustrating again than a Valorant game where you drop 30 and
Yep.
and your team loses and you're like, but I was playing a great game.
Yep.
We just got team gapped. And that team gap is really hard to swallow a lot of the time for me because I can't control my team.
That's
I can try.
fair. Yeah.
I can ask, but
it's funny too. I feel like that's the easiest way for me to stop being mad is to just look back and go, oh well, matchmaking was off today. This guy probably didn't play the best game that they could have, or the other team had a smurf, right? That's if it's meant to be a balanced matchmaking system, I know that it can't be perfect. That's one of the fastest ways for me to detilt is just look at it and go, yeah, unfortunate. Because of my background and always wanting to be supporting a teammate. I also feel like I think I mentioned it earlier. I like the idea of saying you're not having the best game that you've ever had. How can I help you? I'm not having the best game I've ever had. How can you help me? One of my favorite things to do with Arena on my team is just be like, dude, trade me, like bait me. I get your kills up because I know that's the only thing you give a shit about. And sometimes I'll end up getting the kill without needing to be traded or whatever. But at telling somebody to bait me or telling somebody to trade me, because I feel like that's what they need is fun for me. Even if I go double negative.
yeah, I mean, when I play Valorant, I'm perfectly happy to support the team. I play Initiator, I play Sentinel, I play Controller. Sorry for the people that are listening to this who are trying super hard to get a VOD review and can't fill.
Yeah.
I play supportive roles. That's how I prefer to play the game.
Yep.
Because I like setting people up for success in that way
Yes.
when I am doing team competition. But at the end of the day, when I'm looking at how to get better at Valorant, it is 1v1s. It's how do you isolate and win your ones against other people. And so I think helping your team and helping support your team is great. As long as sort of you can drill in on why you're doing what you're doing.
Exactly. Well, hey, how about that? How about a segue? Um, the last thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was kind of figuring out how to not um, put so much self worth on the outcomes and learn from mistakes. So I kind of want to just slide into that last topic. I listed a note here like coping is fine initially, which is why I kind of mentioned um, my first reaction to a game is to go and find the things that can easily be like brushed off, right? Team Gap, they had a Smurf, whatever. If I can't find those things, then I actually go seek an answer. What was my strength? What was my weakness in a game? And it's VOD reviewing. You have to VOD review. So I kind of paused there because that's what you were alluding to anyway. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I love learning from mistakes. That's how I learn.
yes,
Um, I am okay at studying game film and then putting it into practice. I'm okay at it. It's not my favorite way to learn. The way I learn best is by doing and failing
yes,
and looking at how I failed and coming back from that. So to pull out of video games again, right now I am studying for the bar, which is the license exam for lawyers to become attorneys. It is a miserable experience. It's a 2-day test. One day is 200 multiple choice questions over 6 hours. Um, I am doing hundreds of practice questions in order to learn. And there's nothing quite as fun for me right now. And this is really sad that this is how fun my life is. Um, as the dopamine hit of when I click submit answer and it turns green. And
yeah,
there's
yeah.
nothing and there's nothing quite as frustrating as when I think I have the right answer and I click the submit button and it goes red and then it highlights the right answer in green and it's saying to me, you're stupid, you're wrong, give up.
The and
But
or yeah,
what it's also doing is it's giving me an explanation of why I'm wrong.
mm-hmm.
And so my reaction to that can either be, I got it wrong, I'm stupid, I'm worthless, I should never do this, I should give up. Or it should be, why did I think that rule gave me this answer when it in fact gives me that answer?
Yes,
And that's the way I learn best. I have a course that gives me literally 100-page outlines on areas of the law that I should learn. And I can sit and I can read those for hours and hours. And I'll learn some of it. I'll learn most of it, even. Eventually, I'll learn all of it. But nothing for me works to improve quite as well as putting it into practice, failing, figuring out why I failed, and then figuring out how to not fail on that again.
yes. Okay, so I love that that's the direction you're going with it too. So a little fun fact about me: I've always wanted to write. I've always wanted to create a story and write it. There's one part of that I've never done. Can you guess what it is?
Start.
Start. Yeah, I've never actually just sat down and wrote. And every single book, every single online guide, whatever, do master classes and whatnot. Every single one of them is like, yeah, you just gotta do it and fail. Um, yeah, so I think that I don't know. I was watching something on Valorant too. It's like you can't get better at ranked if you don't just go play ranked and then learn why you're failing. Um, Anything that you can VOD review that you can record and go back and watch or listen to is key to getting better at something. I was talking to my son about this. He wanted to play baseball, and I was talking to him about getting better at baseball. So he's still in little league. He's still technically in coach pitch, and he can't catch pop fly. Right? He's still afraid of the ball. He still can't read the ball, which I think is a big thing. I'm trying to explain to him that there's physics that's he still hasn't learned yet. The trajectory means it's going over there. You will learn
Yeah.
that in time. And I told him what you're going to have happen, by the way, is the ball needs to hit you in the face a couple times for you to understand how close you can get to the ball, because you never get close enough to the ball. And I think that that's extremely important. Like if he never tries to catch a pop fly, sure, eventually he can catch a pop fly, but he's going to be 15 and playing tennis or something, and so like he's not going to learn it. It's obviously not, that's, I'm being hyperbolic, but he won't learn in Little League if he doesn't do it. And I've kind of talked to him about that. I ask you if you want to go throw because I want to help you get better at it, and you're too focused on playing whatever Mario Kart or whatever, which is fine. And I told him I don't care about that. If you want to play Mario Kart, but don't tell me you want to get better at something and never go do it. Right now he would have no idea. So I want to kind of segue that into like understanding what you can learn from something. And I'm interested to get your perspective on it. When I am watching diamond level gameplay that I'm in, high plat, for those of you that know that I'm plat 3 still, or that I D-rank to plat 3. So when I'm in those games, I know the things that I've worked on. I know the things that I have been told I'm not doing correctly. The video today with Wahujin talking about why I should not be playing mid as Cypher never occurred to me. I know that holding down a site by myself as Cypher is key to winning defense. If I can't do it, we probably lose. If I don't even try, we probably lose. But so kind of putting that into what we've been talking about, what is your perspective on, I'm going to review something, but I have to ignore all the things I don't know.
So I think understanding what you don't know is arguably more important than understanding what you know. And that sounds crazy, but when you do something and you don't understand it, and you don't make the effort to even try and understand it, you are handicapping yourself in a way that is going to prolong your improvement journey.
Yes.
So one of the big rules in the Club Banana Discord server is don't ask a Googleable question. And we get people complaining about that all the time. And it's kind of a silly rule. I mean, if someone knows the answer to a question, why wouldn't you ask them? Because they have the answer ready and all of that.
Yep.
But it's not about getting the answer. It's about learning how to find stuff you don't understand. And in Valorant in particular, Christian is really good at that.
Yes.
He sees an agent do a thing. He sees a fade, throw an eye or a dog or an ult, and he doesn't understand it. He's going to go figure it out.
Yes.
He's going to say, why did they peek that in that way? What were they expecting? And he'll go and he'll watch 6 hours worth of VODs to learn the answer to that one question.
Yep.
And that's a little obsessive, but that's who he is. Mm-hmm. But what he's doing is he's understanding what he doesn't understand.
Yes.
And so when you play Cypher on Pearl and you go mid and Christian says, what the hell are you doing? It didn't occur to you that you didn't know
exactly
that Cypher shouldn't be mid.
Yep.
And so you couldn't have improved at that until someone pointed it out to you.
Yes.
But now that you know, you're going to go look and you're going to see, okay, going mid is a bad idea. What is a good idea?
Yep. Play with it. And it's funny because I can 100% explain why I did it and why I thought it was right. So which I explained it to Wahujin was nobody was controlling mid. My team wasn't able to control mid. So I started playing for information, which means all of my util was purely to find out where people were. It was never to secure a kill, which is not necessarily the purpose of Cypher, but I was only playing to find out where they were and never locking down a site. And part of that is, so what I've already learned, part of that is communication. If Reyna's pushing a main with an op, to his point, okay, maybe you can go play mid, especially if they're holding down B. But then there were rounds where I think it was just Gecko was on B with me, and I still went mid because I was autopiloting at that point. I was autopiloting for information, and I needed Christian to tell me that for me to learn from it. So the other side of, to your point, learning, figuring out how to go seek those answers out. I want to mention how helpful people can be in, for example, the Discord server. There's thousands of Valorant Discord servers. So at just asking the question after you've tried to find the answer yourself, to be fair, can be very, very, very powerful. And I think that's one of the things that holds people back is they don't ask the question or ask the right question. And typically you're not asking the right question because you haven't even tried to find the answer yourself yet. Yeah.
I think that's sort of the most important point is figuring out how to ask the right question.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you could ask, then what's the right mid cam to use?
Yeah.
And like that's a valid question. If you're going to be playing mid, you want to use the right mid cam.
Yep.
So let's figure out the best one. But the right question isn't how do I play mid better? It's where should I be playing?
Where should I be playing? Yeah.
And
the answer was communication. You should be playing A, which I knew, but you need to be telling the person who shouldn't be on A to
get off A.
Can you cover art? Yeah, let me hold this down. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was a communication problem when Reyna didn't have an op.
Yeah, and I think in our Discord server, our goal is to teach people how to ask the right questions. All of the resources are geared towards this is how you can do this yourself, not this is how you get to ask Christian how to do it.
Yes.
And I think that's really important, and I think that's a thing that a lot of people who are trying to improve, particularly at Valorant, are not really good at. They play the game, they lose, and they go, "Oh well."
Yep.
And then they show up in the server and they go, "How do I get better?"
Yep.
And the instant reaction when someone asks a question, which I'm really happy about at this point, when someone comes in with a question like, "I keep dying when XYZ happens, when I peek B long on Icebox as an attacker, I keep dying here." Immediately 5 people will say, "Drop a VOD."
Yep.
Bring a VOD. Let's see what you're doing in order to figure out what you need to do. And so they're seeking that information that they don't have that will lead them to maybe not giving an answer, but getting the right question.
Yes. 100% true. All right. I think I'm going to call it there. We've gone 45-ish minutes, which is longer than I normally go because this has been very different, and I've loved this. So, speaking of learning from mistakes, for anyone who is checking this out, please give some comments, give some feedback. Let us know. Was this enjoyable? Was this not enjoyable? Is there any different way you'd like us to do this? Also, I will be meeting with Ethan afterwards to chat with him about that as well and see how we can streamline this in the future if needed, assuming you want to come back. Ethan.
Yeah, I'd absolutely come back unless the people hate me, and then
Exactly.
I don't want to come back.
Deal. All right. Let me close up. So recap. So I always do a quick recap. We talked a little bit about assigning self-worth to your successes and your failures. Don't focus so much on just assigning your self-worth to your failure. You should be recognizing how you're doing it with success, because that's equally as bad. Try to find a way to create objectivity in your success or failure metrics, tying emotions that they're to your outcomes. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be sad. It is not okay to immediately react to your emotions. Also, why would you quit when you're sad if you would never just re-queue when you're happy? Because sometimes people do more, right? What do we say? We put more weight on our failures than we do on our successes. So I think objectivity also helps there. I kind of mentioned that the way that I detail after a game is to go quickly VOD review and try to become objective about it. And then the last thing is learning from mistakes and figuring out how to ask the right questions. Learn how to ask questions, learn how to seek answers, but also find a community of people who are willing to help and are interested in helping, much like the Wahoojan Discord server. That's it for this week. Next week is going to be a JPC lure drop again. I'll figure out what it's about. It'll probably just be a little bit of JPC background, but we'll do that next week. And again, if you guys are enjoyed this, please give feedback, and we'll have Ethan back because I really did enjoy this, and I'd like to make it useful for everyone. All right, that's it. Thank you all. Have a good week. Good luck in your games. GG's.